have been a number of times throughout Olympic history when individual athletes have made political gestures to draw attention to particular situations. The famous one probably comes from 1968 when a number of black American athletes, particularly Smith and Carlos, used the medal podium to make a Black Power salute.
The exhibition politics in Olympics is, as the title suggests, is about the intervention, if you want, and the relationship with politics throughout the Olympic Games history.
The modern Olympic Games were started in 1896, with the first ones being held in Athens. The original vision was obviously very narrow, it was very elitist. The main founder was an aristocrat. Most of the original Olympic Committee were aristocrats, members of the House of Lords, high-ranking academics from different countries. So it was a very elitist vision. What's happened is over time, the politics have become an awful lot more obvious as wider global issues have been played out in the Olympics. I think the first really to do that was kind of Cold War politics. So which China do you recognise, which Germany, which Korea? It then really came to the fore in the 1960s over South Africa, when the IOC threw South Africa out of the Games because of apartheid.
The first Olympic Games were in Olympia, Greece in 1776 BC. Artistic expression was a major part of the Games. Sculptors, poets, painters, and other artisans would come to the Games to display their works in what became an artistic competition. The Games ended, though, in 393 AD when Emperor Theodosius I began to impose Christianity on Rome.
They returned in 1896, as suggested by Baron Pierre de Coubertin at Athens, Greece. It was during these Games that the International Olympic Committee, also known as the IOC, began. In 2009, the UN General Assembly granted the IOC permanent observer status. This decision enables the IOC to be directly involved with the UN agenda and attend the UN General Assembly meetings. In 1993, the UN General Assembly approved the resolution, which was the decision to revive the Olympic truce, by adopting a resolution entitled Building a Peaceful and Better World Through Sport and the Olympic Ideal, which calls upon member states to observe the Olympic truce before every iteration of the Games and to use the sports as a tool to promote peace, dialogue, and reconciliation in areas of conflict during and beyond the period of Olympic and Paralympic Games. The Olympics have grown to take on more of a political display every 4 years. Even the United Nations are involved with the hosting and the performance of the Olympic Games, evident in General Ban Ki-moon's statement, a UN secretary.
It is an honor to join billions of people around the world in watching the Summer Olympics and Paralympic Games in London. I'm Ban Ki-moon, Secretary General of the United Nations. The United Nations and the Olympic movement bring countries together. We believe in peace. That is why we proclaim an Olympic truce.
Despite this, Chapter 5 of the Olympic Charter says, no kind of demonstration or political, religious, or racial propaganda is permitted in the Olympic areas. However, the Games have contended with wars, boycotts, protests, walkouts, and even terrorist attacks. Most notable of these is the 1936 Berlin Olympics. Leading up to the Berlin Olympics, the United States was very caught up in their own economy and defenses. The 1930s contained the Great Depression and Roosevelt's New Deal. Germany and the rest of Europe was also experiencing a Great Depression and an increase of Nazi control over the local governments and Hitler's overwhelming propaganda. With the arrival of the 1936 Olympics, the Games were purposefully hosted by Germany, so the Republic had an opportunity to display their regained status among the European countries. Hitler took advantage of this platform to express his theory of racial superiority, most notably shown in his reactions towards Jesse Owens, the African-American hero of the Games that won 4 gold medals.
1936, when Hitler wanted to show the world how great his people, what the German people were, and then what a black American Jesse Owens did, and completely went ahead and dominated the running events in the 36 Olympics.
So following World War II, the Olympics took on a greater political significance as participation in the Olympics began to symbolize political recognition and legitimacy as a nation. Germany and Japan, of course, after World War II, were not invited to London because of their wartime roles, while the Soviet Union was invited, as it was an ally during that time, but it did not show up.
Seven nations boycotted the Melbourne Olympics in 1956. Due to a dispute over the Suez Canal, Egypt, Iraq, and Lebanon refused to participate, arguing that the Israelis invaded the Sinai Peninsula. In protest to the Soviet Union's invasion of Hungary and subduing an uprising against the government, Spain, Switzerland, and the Netherlands boycotted also. The People's Republic of China later refused to participate after the flag of Taiwan, which is the Republic of China, was flown in the Olympic Village and therefore allowed to participate in the Games. Several big political movements were occurring in 1956, including the Vietnam War, the death of Martin Luther King Jr., and the Soviet Union's invasion of Czechoslovakia. Also, East Germany competed separately for the first time. During the Games, two African-American athletes who won first and third in the 200-meter dash raised clenched fists to show their support for the Black Power movement in the United States. In result, they were suspended from the U.S. team and expelled from the Olympic Village. During the 1972 Summer Games in Munich, Germany, a terrorist group fighting to free jailed Palestinians in Israel broke into the Israeli team's house and murdered two of the athletes. They then held 9 of the Israelis hostage for the next 24 hours, demanding 200 Palestinians in prison to be freed. 11 of the Israelis were killed, including 5 of the terrorists and a German police officer in a shootout. Although many thought the Games should be stopped, the Games resumed upon request from the Israeli government.
Over 60 nations, including West Germany and Japan, led by America, boycotted the 1980 Moscow Games due to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. Only 81 countries participated. These games reported the lowest number of participating countries since 1956. Countries such as Great Britain and France supported the boycott, but allowed their Olympic committees to participate if they wished.
The United States Olympic Committee voted to boycott the Summer Olympic Games in Moscow.
In 1979, Afghanistan was already reeling from a violent coup. The new communist leader, Hafizullah Amin, had plans to westernize a largely Muslim country and quickly became the target of a widespread effort to remove him from power.
He was a traitor!
None of this sat well with the USSR or its powerful chairman, Leonid Brezhnev, who feared that the uncertainty in Afghanistan would diminish the Kremlin's influence in Central Asia. Soviet troops arrived on Christmas Eve of 1979 to back the counterinsurgency and dug in for war.
Soviet troops were all over the place in Afghanistan today.
The action was met with condemnation from all around the globe. U.S. President Jimmy Carter issued an ultimatum.
And I have notified the Olympic Committee that with Soviet invading forces in Afghanistan, neither the American people nor I will support sending an Olympic team to Moscow.
Brezhnev didn't back down, and the Moscow Games proceeded with the smallest turnout of any Olympics in decades. And while the boycott had widespread international support, many athletes bristled, feeling like the Olympics should transcend politics.
You can look anywhere around the globe and you'll find a problem where help is needed, where we could jump on a bandwagon, if you like. And I think it's just a little unfortunate that we've chosen now the Olympic Games to have a go at.
In response to that boycott, the USSR counter-boycotted the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles. The country would eventually return to Olympic competition in 1988, but Soviet troops remained in Afghanistan until '89. Some estimates put the number of deaths during that conflict at nearly 2 million people.
The presence of politics in the Olympic Games is evident throughout the decades of Games. Although violence has been an effect of political disputes, the Games promote peace and unity and will continue to show the integrity of our international world through groundbreaking acts of sportsmanship displayed in the Olympics.